it's a week that's really shown Arsenal's limits in terms of the structure and the culture of the club. Arteta came in really seeming like he wanted to change that and make a real impact on that. Why do you think so far those early signs in the first press conference haven't come into the pitch?
Well, I think firstly, he's probably got the toughest managerial job in Europe at the moment to try and turn the mess that Arsenal Football Club is around, to be honest. I think one of the key things that me and Layth took from that first press conference was obviously he talks a lot about ruthlessness, but the kind of context to that was things he'd learned from Pep Guardiola, who obviously was his mentor. But you look at Man City and Guardiola, and he's got a squad of players, bar Leroy Sané, who want to be there, want to play for the club. Whereas you look at Arsenal's squad, and there's a handful of players who look like they want to be there. The others clearly don't want to be there, aren't interested, aren't willing to fight for the badge. So I think it's very difficult to be ruthless when you're going to have to be ruthless with 8/10 of the squad, say. So, yeah, a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Layth, I remember you and Dan standing outside the Emirates after that first press conference, very excited about the new manager coming in. What's changed since then for you? Or are you still fully with faith with Arteta but worried about the club's culture?
Yeah. Well remembered. Yeah, I mean, me and Dan were so excited after Arteta's first press conference. He spoke so well. He really knows the ethos of the club. He's an Arsenal man. And I'm still excited about the prospect of Arteta leading Arsenal to glory. The last week has just emphasised or underlined the task he's got in front of him, basically. I don't think Arteta's changed. I just think the players, some of them have switched off or never switched on in the first place. The lack of effort is just unforgivable. I was having a few sort of Twitter conversations after our live blog from, Brighton Arsenal on Saturday, and people are going, well, they are playing for the badge. And I'm like, well, they're not playing for the badge, because if they were playing for the badge, they would be giving maximum effort to Arteta and to the badge, and that's not what certain players have been doing, and it's unacceptable. You can handle players that aren't good enough. I don't mind that, so long as you play your heart out. And half those players in the Arsenal team on Saturday didn't do that, and the other half were slightly cocky. I mean, more plays never going to be an Arsenal favourite, far from it, in fact. And I'm sure we'll get onto his challenge on Leno, but at the same time, for him to pull up players like Glen saying they were cocky, well, there's nothing wrong with being cocky if you deliver it with results. And Arsenal didn't do that, and it was an absolute disgrace. And I don't like getting balled out by Brighton players, basically, and hopefully the Arsenal players don't like it either, because they need to do something about it. So to answer your question, I don't think it's Arteta, it's the players. Sometimes, managers can tell you everything during the week in training, and as soon as the whistle goes on a Saturday afternoon, it just goes in one ear and out the other. So, Arteta is 100% the man for the job. He just needs to get this miserable season out of the way and rebuild in his own fashion, basically, ahead of next season, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, and Glen, obviously the Brighton game was an absolute disaster, but the City game, I think, really highlighted the difference between what Arteta walked into Arsenal compared to what he had when he was under Guardiola at City. What did you think of that difference coming to the fore in that game?
Well, I think we all knew it was there, and I was under no illusions of that. That's what we were going to expect. I thought possibly it could be more. They banged in 5 last night, didn't it? Well, I think that hiatus instilled a bit of a false impression amongst Arsenal fans, as if that gap sort of like wiped away what we're really about, and we were going to come back all guns blazing. But, the City game just really enforced the amount of fault lines running through the club from top to bottom. It's been a short shock that we are really, nothing more than a mid-table team. In terms of effort in the City game, I know we discussed it straight after the game, but I think there are more teams that would have gone up there and given them more problems than we did. We didn't even look like we cared, really, a lot of it. There's no fight. At least, I've heard a few people say, at least try and make it difficult for them. There was none of that.
I read something, I think it was in the Mail, one of the columnists saying after the game that Arsenal, particularly with Guendouzi's moment with Mope after the final whistle, wasn't it? Saying that Arsenal had all the fight when it didn't matter, but when it came down to the actual in the game, when you need to be gritty, all of their fight just evaporated. So do you think that was in that game really, and in the Man City game as well, that really lack of focus, lack of grit was missing?
Well, it's hugely evident, like you said, the fighting spirit they showed after the game. And that's when they actually clicked. Oh, this is actually a real game. This isn't a pre-season friendly. This matters for something. And I think it just shows that lack of mentality that Layth was mentioning about, and also the fact that there were some previous contract decisions were made that I think really kind of showed the bizarre behaviour behind the scenes at Arsenal. Our most well-paid player wasn't playing or on the pitch, whilst our least-paid player in Saka was the one doing the most amount of work. And it just seems to be a real reversing roles that doesn't make any sense to any fan from any club. And, this idea that we're sort of hanging on to our former glory days is really becoming worse and worse and more evident as these defeats pile up. And I think as much as you can, try and suggest that Arteta's not changing enough, I think we all said at the start when he first started, it's going to take a couple of seasons for him to really get his stamp of approval on the team. The way he spoke after those losses, he wasn't a happy man, and he knows he's got his job cut out for him, and he knows that he's got to try and change the mentality of these younger players.
Yeah.
Glen, you had a response to that?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say in terms of Guendouzi sort of after the event. I mean, he's a kind of hold me back character, isn't he?
Exactly. I was going to say, Glen. Yeah.
Trying to front up after the event, but in terms of you talk about, we know we've not got the skill on the pitch or the players of the caliber that great Arsenal sides have had, but I'm not even sure those players are aware of the history. They've just got to look at a few DVDs and see if that was David Seaman that went down on the floor screaming his head off. The likes of Adams, Keown, Lauren, all those players would have been just pushing Mopé off the pitch. There would have been all hell broke loose. And even if you can't back it up footballing wise, just galvanises a side. And that just seems to be completely lacking. That's something I do think that Arteta will try and reinstill. He's going to sit people down and go, this is our club. Look at what people in the past have done for this club. Believe it and carry on that tradition. But I was fuming. I only saw Match of the Day, as I told you. But, it was just so after the event. Sorry.
It's a lot of leaders, isn't it? I mean, when was the last time we had a really good leader in an Arsenal team? Probably a decade.
Yeah.
There's nobody to take command of any situations. You look at the end of the game. Obviously, Mopé scores to win the game. There's nobody organising and taking charge and putting people where they should be, and everyone switches off and we can see them lose a game. There needs to be more leaders in the team, and that's the issue. But I think there's just a general lack of leaders in football at the moment. I think there's only a handful in the Premier League, so God knows where we're going to find them, but we need to.
Sorry, Layth. Just the last final point. Arteta, he was no great muscle man on the pitch, but I'll tell you what. If anyone had a go at his players at Arsenal, he was always in there, snarling away, pushing people away, and hopefully he can just reinstill that, because it's pathetic at the moment.
Yeah. I think there is, for Arteta to change the culture, it is going to need a lot of players to move on. I think one of the main ones is going to be Ozil, isn't he? He's been there for a long time, and I think he's really going to have been instilled in that culture of just poor character on the pitch.
I've got to ask Toby and Glen. Glen, what was your take on Ozil not being anywhere near the team, even at 1-0 up? You think he could have come on and maybe gone for a second goal? What did you feel about him not playing?
Well, irrespective, we've gone over this time and time again, so I'm not going to go on about the money and his attitude or whatever. But that midfield was abject, and just get him on and see if we can thread a pass through to Aubameyang or whoever is going through the middle. But he needed to come on. So too Tierney as well.
And what would you think about his long-term future? Do you think he's got one? Do you think he's been managed out?
There's just too much noise around the player now. It's no good for anyone. No good for anyone. It's a shame. It's a shame it's come this way, because I did actually think he was making steps to sort of reintegrate himself into the side. Arteta put a lot of faith by him when he came back in. Seemed like he'd given him a blank canvas, forgotten about the past, new manager. But I don't know what's going on. But it's a waste of talent. But we can't move on. He's got to draw a line under it, to be honest.
Yeah, if Glen's saying that, then I think every Arsenal.
It's all over if Glen's saying
sick of hearing about it.
Do you think Arsenal fans will? Obviously, Emery got a lot of stick building for other reasons. Do you think Arsenal fans are going to be willing to give Arteta that time? Because irrespective, it's going to take time to change the culture of Arsenal, because it is a cultural change that needs to happen. Dan, what do you think?
Well, I think they always knew it was going to be a long-term project rather than a short-term fix. I mean, I have seen some Arsenal fans on social media calling for him to be sacked. It's just madness. It's just madness. He's been there, 6 months now. 3 of those he didn't have the chance to instill his ideas, train with the team, anything like that, for obvious reasons. And he came, as I said earlier, he came into an absolute mess. So I don't know what fans are expecting from him in such a short space of time.
Yeah, you were saying?
I mean, if you look at Arsenal now, you could bring in the best manager in the world, whoever that may be, and they won't get the result that the Arsenal fans want and expect, purely because the players that are on the pitch aren't enough, to really make a difference. So I think the idea of people saying sack Arteta now is utterly just ridiculous, really. And I think you need to give him time. We saw the end of Emery's reign; it was all very topsy-turvy and going very, very poorly for us. Freddie came in and had a bit of enthusiasm about him. Arteta came in, he's instilled a bit more faith in the team, but we still have to change the players around. You can't, it's a blind leading the blind at the moment. You can't really blame Arteta too much because he hasn't had a chance to really do anything in the team. And also, don't forget, the background of the club is different to what Wenger had and what Emery had. So it's going to be different for Arteta again to even make any changes he wants to make.
Yeah, Glenn?
I've just going back to sort of the board, really, and our capacity for dithering. We dithered so long over Wenger. Emery had 2 bites of the cherry with, what should have been an easy run into that, finishing in the top 4. And then obviously the game in Baku, he blew that. I think if they'd have just cut their losses and got rid of him then, they spent a lot of money after that and invested in him. It would have been, I know we're dealing in hypotheticals, but very interesting to see how we would have fared at this point in time now had Arteta come in and had that summer to spend that budget along with, whoever scouts for the team and buys players, and galvanise that club a bit more. I think we'd be in a far stronger position. Obviously, that's hypotheticals, but he's not got a fighting chance, has he, the way he came in and what he had to inherit.
Yeah. And obviously, European football is looking really unlikely now for next season. Do you think if Arsenal do fail to make it into any European place, whether Man City's ban is upheld, whatever, do you think it would almost be a benefit to him to have less games and more time to work on the squad next season?
I've been talking to a few Arsenal fans about this and my feelings as well. Some people are saying, well, it'd be good for Arsenal to regroup without additional Europa League games. But my feeling is I want them to play as many games as possible to get in a rhythm of winning games, basically, and having the option of blooding even more youngsters potentially in the Europa League. So, I don't want to say I would give it a year without Europe because I love Europe. And I think Europe could be a vital aid to boost Arteta's Arsenal for next season. And on top of that, we just love our European away days as well. We had a great time in Liège, in Belgium.
Mainly.
Yeah, it really was. And yeah, and Frankfurt as well. We had a great jolly up there. So, purely in terms of the fans as well, I think I can't imagine too many fans who go, well, I don't want to be in Europe next season. Not the ones who go to games anyway, because it's a great experience and it's good fun and you get to play against different styles and experience different things. And that's just the fans, let alone the team. So, I want Arsenal to qualify for Europe. The higher the better. Whether we do or not is a completely different matter, though.
I keep forgetting that Frankfurt was this season.
Yeah.
That seems eons ago.
You've also got to think about this financially as well. I've written a piece for the Gooner that will be out at some point this week, looking at Arsenal's finances and commercial revenue, profits, losses, things like that. And we're in an absolute state financially. And without Europa League money, even that is minimal, but even without that, we're going to be in such a bad position. And people are looking at spending 50 million on players, 6 million on players. We're not going to be able to spend that. There's no way. So we need some for European football.
I just think Chelsea have made advancements, and Arsenal just aren't even going to be able to keep up with what Chelsea have done already.
Yeah, but Chelsea have always, when Chelsea dropped out of any European football, they had that comfort blanket of financial security, didn't they, to sort of rebuild immediately. We're not in that position. I don't want to invoke sort of lace karaoke sort of traumas or whatever you want to call it, but we are caught in a trap, and it's all very well saying we've got this great crop of young players coming along, but in a modern football climate, as soon as they're going to make their mark, they're off. So it's just I just can't. We're just in such an invidious position. I just find it really. I can't envision how we're going to get out of it.